Is it finally over for electric vehicles? The coolest new technology on the market is now struggling to turn a profit. It's not just startups. Even big companies like GM and Ford are rethinking their strategies. What's going on with EV sales? What does this have to do with the government? And what does this mean for the future of EVs? EV makers are in crisis, and these are the market's 6 loud warning signs you can't ignore. First off, number 6, there are some major financial struggles in the EV market right now. In the second half of 2023, the EV market hit some major bumps. The initial excitement and high demand for EVs, like Ford's F-150 Lightning electric truck, have faded. What does this mean for production? Ford responded by cutting production in half and moving workers to gas-powered vehicle facilities. This shift was surprising, especially since automakers were struggling to meet high EV demand just a year ago. Now, consumers are more hesitant to pay the premium for EVs, which often come with drawbacks like limited range and higher costs. What does that mean for the companies? Well, dealers now have a buildup of unsold EVs, leading companies like Ford, GM, and Volkswagen to delay or scale back their projects. Is it really that bad? Yup. Even Tesla's CEO, Elon Musk, has warned of slower growth in vehicle deliveries for 2024. This slowdown has forced Ford to reduce its EV investments, delay some vehicle launches, and focus more on hybrid production. GM is also facing challenges with battery cell processing and manufacturing delays. The financial struggles are hitting the EV sector hard. Is it just traditional companies that are struggling right now? Nope. They can still benefit from strong sales of petrol and hybrid vehicles. Startups are feeling the heat. They've invested heavily in electrification but are facing major losses due to supply chain issues, high raw material costs, and production inefficiencies. For example, Rivian spends about $200,000 to produce each EV but sells them for around $81,000. Some startups are still attracting new investors, but others, like Canoo, are in trouble. Last September, Canoo had only $6.8 million in cash, down from $450 million in 2022. Almost all EV startups, including Tesla, are struggling with declining revenue, falling share prices, and drastic measures like layoffs to cut costs. What kind of layoffs? Well, Tesla recently cut 10% of its global workforce. In another video, we've covered the layoffs going on in the EV market right now in more detail, and you should definitely check it out. What's the next sign that things aren't looking good for the EV market? Well, at number 5, Fisker has hit a rough patch too. Fisker, the electric car company, is in trouble and might not survive this without more funds. They reported a massive $463.6 million loss in the last quarter of 2023, much worse than the $170 million loss from the previous year. What's going wrong with Fisker? Their production forecast for 2023 kept dropping, ending with just 10,000 vehicles made instead of the 42,000 they initially planned. CEO Henrik Fisker blames delays with suppliers and other issues. To cope, Fisker is slashing its workforce by 15% and aiming to free up $300 million in working capital. But can Fisker turn things around? They're changing their sales strategy to include dealerships along with direct sales and are in talks with a major car manufacturer and a debtor for potential investments. Will these moves be enough to save Fisker? Not exactly. Another major problem is its unconventional business model of outsourcing almost all of its production. As a result, Fisker lost $463.6 million in the final quarter of last year, despite generating $200 million in revenue. In response to these financial woes, the company is making desperate moves to stay afloat, including laying off 15% of its workforce. Will these measures save Fisker from bankruptcy? It's doubtful. But if it does file for bankruptcy, it wouldn't be the first time. But there's also this next sign that things aren't looking good at all. What is it? Well, at number 4, GM is revving up hybrids again. Why is this such a big deal? They were actually one of the first traditional automakers to commit to an all-electric future. So if they're giving up, things aren't looking good at all. Despite investing billions in new technologies like Ultium platform, GM's ambitious plans to sell 400,000 EVs annually by 2026 have hit a roadblock due to the market slowdown. What's been going on with their EV sales? So far, GM's best performance has been just over 100,000 units, thanks in large part to the now discontinued Chevy Volt. Amid slowing EV sales and production challenges, GM surprised everyone by listening to their dealerships. Just days after dealerships called for hybrids, GM CEO Mary Barra announced the company's return to hybrid models during an earnings call. Is this the first time they're introducing hybrids? Not exactly. The last time they offered hybrids was in 2019, with models like the Chevy Volt PHEV and the Malibu Mild Hybrid. Currently, their only hybrid is the Chevy Corvette E-Ray, with recent EPA revisions in electrification plans. GM is putting its major EV projects, including the all-electric Chevy Silverado and GMC Sierra, on hold. Why are the dealers pushing for the return of hybrids? Simple. They understand buyer preferences better than anyone, and they know gas vehicles are making a comeback. In response, GM has announced plans to introduce a few hybrid models in the near future. Before we dive deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. So, what's the next sign that it's over for EVs? Number 3. Ford barely escaped the electrification overdrive. Like GM, Ford made a bad decision about how ready American buyers were for EVs, and is now facing the consequences. Last year alone, Ford lost over $5 billion on EVs, causing them to halt to a $12 billion investment plan. What kind of losses did they face? For every Ford F-150 Lightning sold, they lost at least $36,000. The good news is that sales of the all-electric pickup truck have slowed, which lets Ford cut production and reduce losses. The Mustang Mach-E, once very popular, is now sitting unsold on dealer lots. What does this mean for Ford's strategy? Well, this has made the government's recent changes to electrification plans a relief for Ford. With the F-150 Lightning's poor performance, Ford is now shifting its focus to hybrid versions. Along with dealing with major reliability issues and safety concerns, it's clear that consolidation is needed. Ford plans to concentrate on hybrid technology, which continues to be profitable with their ICF series. How are Ford dealers reacting to the shift? They're moving away from heavy electrification programs, and the company is taking a step back to recover from these significant losses. What are Ford's next steps? They're cutting orders from battery suppliers as they deal with major losses in its EV division. The company is scaling back its ambitions for EVs amid a rapidly slowing market for plug-in models. Why is Ford making these cuts? Ford's move comes as the automaker tries to stem losses, which have reached over $100,000 per EV. This decision reflects the broader challenges in the EV market, with waning demand and unsold inventory piling up for suppliers in South Korea and China. What's the next sign that the market isn't doing so well? Well, it's an obvious one. Number 2, market is slowing down. Many EV manufacturers are on the brink of bankruptcy due to overly optimistic sales growth projections. Why is this happening? Well, the only path to profitability for EVs is achieving a certain sales volume, a target that seems increasingly elusive as growth has significantly slowed down. EV makers, riding the wave of early adopters, had very optimistic business plans a few years ago. In the first half of 2022, the year-over-year growth was 81%, with sales 20% higher than the previous quarter. How did things change so quickly? By the first quarter of 2023, year-over-year growth had dropped to 46% with a quarter-over-quarter increase of 15.5%. What do the latest figures show? Well, this year saw a meager 2.6% year-over-year growth, with quarter-over-quarter changes actually in the negative as sales dropped 15% compared to Q4 2023. With a stabilized supply chain and record-high production, there is a significant imbalance between demand and supply. What does this mean for manufacturers? EVs are harder to sell than ever before, forcing manufacturers to offer substantial discounts, leading to increased losses and casting doubt on the market's sustainability. Finally, we've got number 1, new regulations. Things aren't looking good for both traditional and startup EV makers. What recent changes show this issue? The recent EPA proposal does. The EPA has revised its earlier plan, now aiming for only 1/3 of new cars to be all-electric by 2032. Why is this significant? This adjustment, along with lowered fleet emissions requirements, allows legacy carmakers to continue selling their gas-powered vehicles, especially pickup trucks, without any powertrain modifications. What's behind this shift? This change is largely a response to the market slowdown and the desperation among carmakers. Significant losses, issues with the United Auto Workers (UAW), and overall instability have influenced the government's decision to slow down the pace of EV adoption. Who benefits from this move? This move is intended to help American automotive giants like Ford and GM recover from substantial recent losses. How will these companies profit moving forward? Under new plan, these major companies will continue to reap substantial profits from their internal combustion engine (ICE) pickup trucks, while the transition to full electrification is put on hold for more favorable circumstances. Want to know more about Fiskar's latest challenges? Click on the next video to find out all about what's going on with the Fisker Ocean.